I bet you didn't know what the origins of the word anti-Semite were.
So, what does the Quran say? The Quran says that the offspring of those whom we bore with Nuh or Noah, surely he was a grateful servant. So, this finally makes sense now.
Judenhass, Jew hatred. It sounds awful. Who wants that? It's an emotional thing. Hate. That's not rational. They didn't like the term because it sounded too emotional. So they decided to come up with a new term, a term that would sound scientific. And the term they came up with was anti-Semitism.
According to Oxford Academic, so here we are. So, we know very well that journalists, academics, clerics, and politicians promoted the terms anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism in the years after 1879. They argued that civil and political equality for Jews, decisively achieved only in 1871, had been a grave error, and that the state should take action to protect Germans and Germanism from Jews and Jewish influence. They created the term anti-Semitism, right, to kind of promote racism against the Jewish people, to protect the Germans against Jews and Jewish influence. What?
So Semites and Hamites are cultural linguistic groups. They were named after Sem and Ham, or Shem and Ham, depending on how you're saying it, the two of Noah's sons. The Semites were the Asian group, the Hamites were the African group. So the ancient Egyptians, the Berbers, the Ethiopians, the Somalis, they're Hamites. So think of the indigenous North African population. Arabs, Jews, the Aramaic speakers, so like the Babylonians, Canaanites, Moabites, those populations, those were the Semites. And so when the Germans picked the term, the German practitioners of Judenhass picked the term anti-Semitism, they actually included Arabs in the process because Arabs are Semites. Hebrew and Arabic are shockingly similar languages. They're very closely related. I don't think they're quite as closely related as Aramaic is to Hebrew, but they're very close. And so at that moment, there was this cultural inclusion, I think, that the German nationalists didn't necessarily intend to include, but at some level they did. Because here's one of the interesting things. All this anti-Jewish hate was intimately tied to anti-Muslim hate. This wasn't separated out nicely and neatly. For example, in Spain, Judaism was banned in Spain in 1492. A year that a bunch of stuff happened at the same time. 1492 is a huge year. It also happens to be the year that the Kingdom of Granada fell to Castile and Leon, to Isabella. That's why Judaism was outlawed in that year. Because as long as there was a Muslim-controlled territory in Spain, there was a place for Jews to flee to. There was a place to defend the Jews. So what the Christian fundamentalist fanatics who were making Spain needed to do was take out the last Muslim state before they could start to purge the peninsula of its Jewish population.
So, long story short, the term anti-Semite included Muslims and the Jews. Benchos, they even colonized the term, bro.